Good morning, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Top 10 Songs. I got my co-host here ready to go this morning via Zoom, Martin Popoff. What's happening? Martin, how you doing this morning?
Yes, I'm doing okay, Pete. This is very cool. This was a real fun one, and I think I'm going to cause some enemies here, but I'll try to be kind. But I do tend to argue my points vociferously, and I'm going to be pretty contrarian on the Babies, I think.
Okay. Well, I think the Babies are a band that probably separates a lot of different folks out there. I think they got the loyal followers. You got the people that say the Babies, who the hell was that? And then you got the people who, are like, I know those couple like real popular songs. So they had a couple. We right before we started taping, I made a statement that the more I listen to this band, the more I find it hard to believe they weren't enormous. And they were only around for a couple of years. I mean, it's just like you blinked and bloop, here's our 5 albums and see ya. And Jonathan Cain is off to Journey, and then the rest is history, I guess we should say. And John Waite, big solo career for a couple of years, right?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. Going through all their catalog, again, not a big catalog, I was pulling out all sorts of songs. I'm like, yeah, I love that song. I love that song. I love that song. I'm like, Jesus, how did these guys, how were they not like million sellers? I don't know. But part of rock history, right? This happens all the time. You get these great bands who seem to have all the goods, but the general public just wasn't really buying it for whatever reason.
Yeah, and maybe they also fit into a category of a band that kind of was around for a long time in a way, because John Waite, builds this career that's even bigger than the Babies. Jonathan Cain becomes famous, but that's kind of here nor there because he's the keyboardist in Journey. But but he's a big songwriter as well. But yeah, John Waite goes on to a lot of fame. So it's one of these where they didn't get big because the main attraction splintered off and solo artist, right?
And I think too, they were a few years too early. Mm-hmm. If you listen to a lot of these songs, especially from the third album and on, very bright, very commercial sounding, big hooks, arena ready. I think we were still a couple years away from that. So in other words, if you let's say Jonathan Cain doesn't go on to Journey, they continue making a couple of albums in that vein. I mean, let's face it, 81, 82, 83, this stuff would be all over the radio. Yeah. And I think maybe they were just a little too early. And I think some of the first couple albums, some of that material, very kind of Bad Company-ish in spots. I don't know. Maybe then they were a little too late. Right. Yeah. So it's like, it's kind of, the timing was just not right for these guys. So as always, we picked out 10 tracks. We're going to start at number 10. We're going to work our way to number 1. I'm going to let Martin kick us all off with his number 10.
Okay. So my number 10, I'm going to go with True Love, True Confession from Union Jacks. This one here. There we go. Union Jacks. As I said, to warn people, I'm going to be very favorable to the later Babies and unfavorable to the earlier Babies. So this is from their second to last album, not my favorite album of theirs. But I love this Jonathan Cain era. To me, this is as Pete, exactly as you said. This is that pomp rock sort of thing. Remember that term that applied to maybe Styx, Journey, but moving down the line, New England and Trillion and maybe even Avery, I don't know. Night Ranger as well, and Poppy, Kansas, and Streets when Steve Walsh went from Kansas, right? So there's this pomp rock sound. You get Jonathan Cain with kind of those stabbing piano pieces. So it sounds very poppy and kind of Styx-like. And again, this is a little early, but yeah, I just like the pathos and the melody and just the yearning passion of the songs from this era. And this is a pretty good one that is definitely very punk rock.
Yeah, I agree. You threw out a lot of really good bands there. And I actually have a soft spot for a lot of that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. I like all those bands you mentioned quite a bit. I normally like to grab the CDs to show where these songs came from, but I completely forgot. So, Martin, if you've got them all assembled there.
I'm ready, yeah.
I'm listing them off, you could just throw up the album cover. I completely forgot. I've got back-to-back recordings today. I just kind of slipped my mind. So I'm going to go to their 1977 Broken Heart album, which I dig quite a bit. Right. And the song that I chose is a song called Rescue Me, which I think good hook, good chorus. There you go. Classic picture of the band on the front with John Waite and his kind of like red hair, which I always look at that and I cringe, but hey, whatever. It's what he was doing at the time. I think Rescue Me, again, another one of the songs that there's a number of them that I think had really huge hit potential and just didn't really do it. But I get like this strong Bad Company feel from those first couple albums, from the guitar riff to the production of the whole 9 yards. And, you know, John Waite has got this kind of Paul Rodgers-ish vocal thing going on from time to time. But Rescue Me, that's my choice for number 10. Really good one. Catchy as all hell. Always like that song.
Okay. My number 9 is Isn't It Time from Broken Heart. You know, this is one of those where, you know, Ron Nevison, the producer, famous for UFO, goes crazy with strings and horns. Like the orchestration's crazy on this. You know, they've got a couple of, what's the other one called? Every Time I Think of You, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So they have these songs that, you know, when I wasn't really paying attention, I always thought, oh, these must be 60s covers, you know, 60s girl group covers or whatever, right? Phil Spector or something like that, right? But no, this is actually, it's not a cover. It's not written by them, but it wasn't like a big hit by anybody. But it's just this great Babies ballad where they throw everything but the kitchen sink at it. I mean, I personally don't think these are greatly produced albums, period, and they're not Ron Nevison's greatest work either. But this is one where he does that thing. I mean, he did this with UFO too, right? The strings and that. So he does this throw everything but the kitchen sink at it kind of thing. And yeah, I just think this is a really good ballad with a nice pre-chorus and chorus to it. You know, big epic sort of song from them.
Yeah, and it's one of those songs that was a minor hit for them and then covered by plenty of other people years past it, which just goes to show you that how much a lot of people appreciated that song, that they would even be interested in covering it. So, yeah. All right, my next one, number 9, is going to be the title track to Head First from 1979.
Okay.
That to me is your quintessential baby song, and another tune that you listen to it now and you're like, oh, this must have been a huge hit for them. And it really wasn't. Oh, you got all the signatures too. Very cool. It's got hooks to die for. Love the piano in it. The chorus is absolutely amazing. It's just got superstar hit written all over it, and yet it wasn't for some strange reason. Again, maybe too early. If that comes out in 81, 82, 83, I think we're talking a different story. But for 79, maybe not. 79, you got new wave and post-punk and all that kind of stuff, pretty popular. Disco kind of, you know, still kind of there. Head First didn't really get the shot it deserved, I think.
Okay, all right. And my number 8 is Gonna Be Somebody from this one, On the Edge. Right? On the Edge is my favorite Babies album. I just love the, you know, again, the production isn't a big deal on these records. I think the producers kind of get out of the way for them. The last two are Keith Olsen, who's a big famous guy, right? Sadly, no longer with us. Recently died. But I just loved kind of the tough, compact, you know, rockiness of these songs. And you know, this has a big anthemic chorus on it. Just a good hooky song. And again, this falls so much into that idea. I'll just mention it here, as you very rightly mentioned earlier. I mean, this band should have been bigger. Again, they're falling into this. This is what, 1980? 80. So this is around that you know, early Night Ranger era, where you're starting to see, you know, it's coming a little bit from punk turning into new wave with the Cars and bands like the Records and the Romantics. But you're also getting this early proto hair metal thing, and then hair metal, of course, blows up huge in 83, 84. And Babies with these sorts of records would have been perfectly primed to be the poppy end of hair metal and do great. But remember, you know, John himself and one or two other guys, and 3 guys from the band, right? Bad English did cash in on this. It's sort of like the Damn Yankees thing, you know, the super group later on. So they eventually did cash in a little bit on hair metal, but not as the Babies. So.
And I'd argue that Bad English were probably almost a year too late, because Bad English came out right at the tail end of that. And yes, like the first album was really big. Second album didn't really do as big business, although I think the second album is damn good. And you have to wonder, too many egos going on in that band, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. Good stuff, though. All right, so my number 8, I'm going to go to the Union Jacks album from 1980 for a song called Back on My Feet Again. Another should have been huge song. There you have him there. And I always remember the video for this song with, and again, I'm going to go back to John's flaming red hair, right? Which stands out like a sore thumb in that video, but they all seem to be having a good time in the video. And, you know, it's a performance video mainly. But again, you listen to that song, you're like, this is just like, it screams top 25, at least here in the States. That scream, you know, this should have been a British band that was at the top of the US charts. And it just, I can't reiterate it enough. I listen to a lot of these songs and I'm like, this is a perfect choice for a big kind of like summertime hit. And again, why didn't it happen? So I can only speak to all the folks out there who are watching. Why weren't you buying Babies records and stuff back in the late 70s? I don't know. I wasn't buying them. So there you have it, right? I was too busy listening to, you know, Judas Priest and Deep Purple and Black Sabbath at this time.
Yeah,
so
yeah, me as well. I mean, Babies was just always kind of around, and you were sort of into them and sort of not. So yeah, I mean, my number 7 also is back on my feet again. So I love this song, and again, yeah, should have been a big hit. You know, another artist we didn't mention around this time. Well, I'll mention a couple. Billy Squier. He's in a very similar camp to the Babies coming up around this time. You know, putting out a lot of solo albums, and they're kind of heavyish and kind of poppy at the same time. But Back on My Feet Again is another one of those nice pomp rock tracks. I mean, I like the Babies more than I like Journey. I've never been. I had a huge Journey, buzz for. I had like a 1 month period where I was like learning and loving all that stuff. I do that with these bands, but I like the Babies more than Journey because I didn't like. I thought Journey's productions were kind of like noisy, and I find Steve Perry's voice a little annoying. I think he's a little overrated. I don't think he's the consummate guy that I don't agree, I guess, on that as much. But I love, you know, this is a perfect example of a song that sounds like a Journey composition sort of, but it's with any eccentricities taken away from it. Just a good, clear, easy to listen to, accessible punk rock song.
Yeah, and I think that, and I'm a Journey fan, so, and I would urge you, if you haven't seen it, watch my deep cut dive on Journey yesterday, where I talk about stuff not from the Steve Perry era. Yeah. But anyway, and I also think, like, with Journey, you have like this kind of clash of some really big personalities, which I think sometimes kind of overtook the music. You know, you got Perry and Neil Sean, right? I never got that with the Babies, other than, you know, John Waite's obviously the star here, but, you know, you don't have the kind of the guitar hero in the wings who's always trying to kind of like, you know, lend his muscle to every song and what have you. I always got the impression that this band was into doing the songs and making them as compact as possible. And I think that really worked. Very kind of focused songwriting with this band, which I always really like a lot. My number 7, I'm going to go back to the Broken Heart album. All right. For a song called If You Could See Me Fly, which is, you know, kind of bluesy. It's got these heavy, like Mick Ralphs type riffs. Again, comparisons to Bad Company. I hear a lot of Bad Company in those first like 2 albums, and also definitely in that official, unofficial album, which I'm going to talk a little bit about towards the end here. You got the Ron Nevison production. It's kind of dry sounding, but I think it really works on some of this bluesier stuff. So again, this probably out of most of the stuff on my list, this is like the kind of not really hit material song, but a really, really good song and a heavy one. It's one of the heavier ones from them.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I want to bring up a point that, I hope I'm more or less right on this and I'm not slagging anybody, unnecessarily, but I have heard kind of in the wings from different people along the way that the Babies were kind of jerky to a lot of bands. Like John Waite was kind of like one of these not nice guys, right? I've heard that about Journey as well. That they're a little antisocial and a little, kind of cranky, right? And I have heard that about the Babies. And one story that I found really funny, I think it was Gilmore from Triumph was telling me this, that the Babies were supporting Triumph, and the Babies just thought the whole idea of Triumph and that big, garish stage show was just ridiculous or whatever, or they were in a bad mood, or the drugs weren't working or something, who knows, right? but apparently he said, yeah, John, the Babies went on before us, and John Waite was up there, kicking out our
Oh,
lights. They had how they had those white light bulbs along the front of the for Triumph. So he says, yeah, and he laughed about it, right? He says, oh yeah, John Waite was up there, singing along, booting out our lights, smashing our lights as he was singing the song. So I have heard that about them, just the way, like, again, recently, I guess Steven Tyler was kind of in the news a little bit for, well, I mean, a lot of people that I've talked to about Aerosmith have said Aerosmith were kind of jerky to people too, right?
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Rush famously talks about that.
Yep.
But yeah, so I wonder if some of the Babies' lack of success was maybe the personalities, the egos, chafed against the record companies. I know there were some problems with Chrysalis, and there's a lot of drama with Michael Corby, the keyboardist, getting kicked out of the band or whatever, and Chrysalis, some shenanigans going on. So maybe they didn't kind of stroke, to use a Billy Squier term, the business side of things so well. Maybe that was one of their problems.
Well, you mentioned the Chrysalis Records. I mean, there are numerous bands that were on that label around the same time. We're talking like late 70s, who probably deserved to be bigger and sell more records and didn't. So you have to wonder if some of the onus lays on the record label. I mean, UFO comes to mind.
Yeah.
Robin Trower comes to mind. I mean, we can go on and on. I mean, granted, there were bands like, you got 10 Years After and a few others that did fairly well for that label, but could that be part of it?
Yeah, could be.
So.
All right. So I'm to do a number 5, I believe, right?
Number 6.
Oh, number 6. Oh, right. Okay. So I'm going to go with, where's the album here? I'm going to go with Love Don't Prove I'm Right from Head First. So that is their 3rd album, right? We got, and the official is in there, which we'll talk about at some point. So it's funny you mentioned the Bad Company thing. I am definitely not a fan, and I've always wanted to be a fan. All since these records came out, there was a lot of hype on the Babies when they first came out with that debut with the silver cover and the guys on it. And it was kind of heavyish and stuff, but I've gone back to those records so many times, that and Broken Heart. And I know you love Broken Heart, Pete, but I just am not a fan of those first 2 albums very much. And I've always wanted to be, and I think everybody wants to be, but I'm just not finding the songs there, right? But on Head First, I think they start to make that transition. This is the troubled one where there's only the 3 guys pictured on the back, right? Michael Corby's kind of kicked off. But this one does give me that Bad Company vibe. It's got that, it's kind of got a good sort of stomping. Tony does like to do a little bit of 4 on the floor drumming and stuff. You'll hear that on some Baby songs, but this is kind of a good mid meat and potatoes, lunch bucket rock, heavy one from that transition period to the Babies that I really like.
Yeah, and meat and potatoes, it kind of describes their early sound. Absolutely, because they had more of like a bright, shiny, full of hooks type of thing on their last couple of albums that maybe isn't quite there on the first 2 albums. It's there in fleeting moments. Like my number 6 is from the first album, Looking for Love. That to me, again, it has that kind of, it's got that never, the production's there. So, they work with Bob Ezrin on that album. It's got this, for me, that album's got this kind of like cavernous sound, which doesn't transfer over to the other ones. And again, I'm hearing like Bad Company's first album on that a little bit. You got Wally Stocker, man. It's like he's doing the Mick Ralphs thing throughout those first couple of records. You got John's vocals at times, hints on kind of that bluesy wail of Paul Rodgers. Yeah. But Looking for Love, I love Tony's drum intro on that. You got the hard rock riffs coming in. And ironically, you got John Waite playing bass. He's all over that track because he plays bass on the first album. He was originally their bass player, became their singer. I really dig that album. I mean, that song from that album, that's probably my favorite song from the first album. I agree with you, though. The first album, a collection of so-so meat and potatoes rockers, others that to me are a little more special. I don't think they really had found their way quite yet. But I still think it's a pretty strong debut overall.
Okay. All right. For my number 5, I am going to go with Postcard from this one. I know you're a Postcard fan, right?
I like Postcard, yeah.
Yeah. Good song. Later on in the thing, this kind of innocuous little title, but I just think it's got a beautiful sort of melody to it. I love the melodies and hooks all over On the Edge. I think you can see some On the Edge songs from me later on in this list. And this one's got the, the classic Tony Brock off offbeat cowbell that actually is on Looking for Love, right? I think that's kind of where he starts it. First song, by the band.
More cowbell, more cowbell.
Yeah, exactly. It's got that, but on a softer, more tasteful way, I suppose, less showy. But again, this is one. I'm just looking at the credits here. This is a rare one where Jonathan isn't doing the writing on. I mean, Jonathan's all over these albums, so I think Jonathan Cain is a big part of these later albums. Super important guy, and you do hear, when you hear a keyboardist as a writer, you expect to hear keyboards, and you hear him in the spaces quite a bit on this record. But yeah, Postcards just got this kind of like mournful, cool, but still hooky melody to it.
Yep, I agree. It's a good one. I like that one a lot. It's a strong album. I mean, I totally agree with you. All right, so where are we? Number 5. You've already mentioned it. Isn't It Time from Broken Heart from 1977.
Okay.
Great hook. I love the female backing vocals. You have them on a few songs on that album. And I know it was a minor hit for them. Probably should have been a bigger hit. But, most people who kind of know the Babies, they like, oh, yeah, that song. And Every Time I Think of You, and don't know anything else. But it's still a great song, I think. And that's, I don't know. You said it all before, so we'll move on.
Okay. All right. So my number 4 is the title track, which you expertly talked about earlier, the title track from Head First. Just a good heavy one, good direct, hits you between the eyes. A beautiful chorus on it. With the
chorus is awesome. Yeah.
yeah, with the high guitar and stuff. So yeah, I think it's just a good anthemic, heavy one. I think. So to make a point again about those early couple of albums, I did an episode of my podcast called My History in 5 Songs podcast that was on. I think I did one that is on, or no, it was actually the Swan Song Records one. So I might not have done on this concept, but I feel that the Babies remind me a little bit of Lone Star and Widowmaker in this confused sound. They don't know where they're going on those first couple of albums.
Throw Detective in there as well.
Yeah, exactly. Detective. Yeah, that's why it was a Swan Song one. So those 3 bands and the Babies, especially on the first one, have this kind of smoke-choked, coagulated, heavy sound. Heavy at the rhythm end, but the songs are a little underwritten, and they're kind of like in every direction. And all 4 of those bands have this similarity to them that kind of rubs me the wrong way. But I think they really get the rocking down on Head First. So that's the song on this album, this transitional album, that just hits me right between the eyes.
And if I'm not mistaken, didn't John play that song live quite a bit in his solo career, if I'm not mistaken?
Not sure. I was going through the John stuff. Yeah, the funny thing about the John stuff is he's got tons and tons of albums through the 90s and the 2000s, but it's almost like Missin' You is done again on every single one of those, right? He does go and cover Baby songs all along the way. So it's like I'm starting to forget what's live and what's redone and what's an acoustic version stuff. John's got some great albums though. I mean, Ignition, which I think is the first one, I love almost as much as On the Edge. I mean, I play that thing all the time.
Yeah, that was a good one. And that did pretty big business for him, his first couple. And then it's like he disappeared after Bad English.
Yeah.
For the most part, which is a shame. Talented guy.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Number 4, right? Is that where we're at?
I believe so, yeah.
All right. So let's go to the Union Jacks album.
Okay.
For a song called In Your Eyes, which one of the heavy rockers from that album. It's got some killer kind of proggy keyboards from Jonathan Cain. I think in this song, I can really hear the kind of the direction he was going to take Journey in. I listened to this song and I'm thinking this could be a Journey song without a doubt. It's got some heavy riffs. I love the proggy keyboards. It's a little bit different song from them, but I think that's a song that's the blueprint of his time in Journey, especially on Escape and Frontiers going forward. And I think it's just a really cool song for this band. It's not their big catchy song, but I think it's got a lot of heft to it. And it's, like I said, kind of proggy and just good hard rock and fun from this band.
Cool. Okay. So my number 3, I'm going back to On the Edge for, here we go, On the Edge for rock and roll. Rock and roll is, in parentheses, alive and well. To me, what I love about this is this is where the Babies kind of joined that not so much UFO and Thin Lizzy and Graham Parker part of the Bruce Springsteen family, but the Bruce Springsteen, Billy Joel Americanized part of the family. So this is where you get this big driving anthemic song, but these almost like classical piano playing all throughout the whole thing. So it's just got this epic, heavy Bruce Springsteen, or as heavy as Billy Joel ever gets, heavy Billy Joel sort of sound and feel to it. That New Jersey working man thing, right? And it's just a good driving song. Again, it reminds me a little bit of what you might get on the Ignition album from John Waite. Just a really cool, soul replenishing, inspiring, driving song, but that is also still very poppy. And Jonathan is on the writing credits on this, as is Ricky Phillips. So this is the point where the band is a 5-piece, and you've got 2 Americans and you've got 3 of the original British guys. So they're becoming one of these hybrid bands, kind of like Rainbow of this era, right?
Yeah.
It's doing essentially what Rainbow is doing and playing kind of the same kind of music a little bit as well. So yeah, there you go. On the Edge, rock and roll is alive.
Yeah, it's a good tune, and I think one of the things that always comes to my mind when I'm listening to those last 2 albums by them, they're fun listens.
Yeah.
Whereas like the first 2 albums, you don't listen to them to have fun too. And you mentioned driving around, and it's got this kind of like Jersey thing going on. Those first 2 albums are like more serious, darker, bluesy, whereas the last 2, big, bright, fun, melodic rock. Right.
Yeah.
All right. So for my number 3, I'm going to go all the way back to the official, unofficial Babies album, which of course was those early demos that they had put together, presented to the record label. Record label was like, no, that's not what we want. So they trashed that and basically started anew. There you have it. This is 1975. So there's a song on there which I absolutely love. It's the first one on side 1, called Bitch or Angel. It's got these real heavy kind of Mick Ralphs type riffs from Wally Stocker. It's got a wailing vocal from John Waite. I'm sorry. I'm putting Jonathan and John together there. That album is pretty rock and pretty bluesy. You can tell there's like an unfinished feel to it. Like there's nothing polished on that album whatsoever, but I always loved the kind of stomping quality of Bitch or Angel. It's heavy. It's these guys trying to figure out who they are, coming across as like a secondhand Bad Company. But you know what? That song does it for me. It's probably the heaviest thing they ever did. And that's a really cool listen for me.
Cool. All right. Then I'm going to go, let's see, we're up to number 2. I'm going to go with She's My Girl from this one, which is, third song on side 1. Again, not much I could say about it other than this is just platinum hooks start to finish. Just a beautiful groove on it. I was listening to it, walking around yesterday, and it's one of these where you think it's not 4/4 time because the riff is changing all over the place, but it actually does just sit in 4/4 time. It's perfectly fine. But it's just a really cool, series of chord changes and just really, really hooky. And again, Pete, as you said, it's the perfect descriptions. These are the happy albums, the driving around albums, the summer albums by this band.
Yep. Good choice there. Yeah. My number 2, let's go back to Broken Heart from 77. Yeah, I like that album. For the bluesy, catchy Give Me Your Love. I love Wally's kind of stabbing lead guitar work on that song. I think he played a bit more guitar on those early albums, which, but again, those albums are kind of derivative, I think, a little bit. The more, his playing got a little more original as they kind of went on. But real catchy chorus. I love the electric piano and the keyboards on that song too. It's more like kind of like a mid-pace rocker, but still pretty catchy. I think that some of the seeds of what we would hear from this band starting on that album and really coming to fruition on the next couple. But that's my number 2, Give Me Your Love from Broken Heart.
Okay. So my number 1, back to On the Edge. So my 1, 2, and 3 plus 2 more out of 10. So 5 of mine are all from this record. I'm going to go with Turn and Walk Away, the opening track on this album. Yeah, and again, there's not much I could say about it other than, everybody must have thought it was special amongst these songs to put it side 1, track 1. And it's another one where Jonathan Cain is, in between the noise made by the other guys. He's doing those keyboard stabs, right? Clean, clear, just regular, pretty much unadored electric piano, I guess, sounds or keyboard sounds. And again, just a beautiful. They always set up the chorus with a really nice pre-chorus, good hard beat to these songs. Yeah, I mean the whole record feels that way to me. That it's just spare. I think Keith Olsen steps out of the way from the band to do these. I mean this has Too Far Gone, which is probably one of their heaviest songs on it, right? And our band in the '80s, Torque, we actually played that song live. But I mean, I could have picked other ones from this, even Sweet 17, although it's a little politically incorrect. But yeah, Turn and Walk Away, I think, is of the songs. I'm kind of looking at the track listing here. 5, 6, 7 of these songs are in this very cool, tough, post, new wave, American, very, very Americanized, poppy, hooky zone. And so, yeah, Turn and Walk Away.
Martin, hold up that album cover again. You wonder too. We talk about why this band wasn't bigger. Do you think they had like sort of an image problem? It seemed like I got like a clash of styles going on there, from the way they dress, the way they look, right?
Yeah,
are these like, are they the Boomtown Rats? Are they foreigner? What are they here, right?
Yeah, and this is very, the behaved mullets of Rick Ocasek from the Cars.
Yep.
It's got that, like I say, in England, I always kind of joke around. In England, it was called post-punk. In America, it was called new wave. But yeah, the Romantics. Who else? Cheap Trick is the classic band that straddled the two, right? The Who-ish hard rock Kiss world, and the post-punk world, new wave world, right? And so yeah, the Babies are kind of very much like a Cheap Trick, I suppose. But even Blue Oyster Cult was trying this kind of music a little bit.
Yeah, true.
Max Webster from Canada, you could almost put a little bit in this world, but yeah, look at the hairstyle problems there, right?
Yep.
And there's Jonathan Cain saying, I wonder if I can make some money at this rock and roll game. He does.
Yeah. All right, my number one probably will not come as a surprise to folks who have been kind of following me for the last couple of months here. So I did about a month and a half ago, I did my top 50 70s AM/radio hits of the decade, right? And one song by this band was in my top 5, might have been my top 3. I'm trying to remember exactly where it sat. This is a song that I basically ignored back in 1979. I ignored throughout the 80s. And it wasn't until like maybe a decade ago that I heard this song. I don't know where I heard it. And I was like, ooh, I remember that. That's a really good song. And then I found out that's the Babies. And I'm like, ooh, that's a band that I always kind of knew about, didn't really follow too much. I started listening to the band more. And the more I listen to this song, the more I love it. And this is one of those rare songs, and Martin, I don't do this too often. If I'm at the gym or on a walk or traveling or something like that, I got the iPod hooked up and I'm listening to stuff. That song will come on. When it's over, I'll hit rewind, I'll play it again, and I'll hit rewind and I'll play it again. I don't do that too often because I'm not a shuffle guy. I'm not like kind of listen to the same song over and over kind of guy. That's not me. But this particular song for me has become in recent years probably one of the unsung pop gems of the 70s. And it's Every Time I Think of You. I absolutely love it. To me, it's like a perfect, my favorite pop song of all time is Brandy by Looking Glass, which to me is an absolute perfect pop song. And I think Every Time I Think of You also is just a gem of a pop song. I love the female vocals in it. I think they play, she plays off of John very, very well. The chorus is so catchy. It's got this kind of different parts and layers to it. I like the strings and all that kind of stuff. It's lush. It's beautiful. And it's to me, it's a near perfect song. And again, not very indicative of most of the other material that this band has done, but that's okay. I think it kind of stands out. It's like an outlier in their catalog, but I love it for it. So very different from all the other stuff that I have on my list, although I do have a lot of real catchy kind of radio-friendly stuff. But for me, that is just absolute perfection. I love the production on it. It's just, the chorus is incredible. There's different parts of the song that just really all work very, very well together. I can't say enough about it. I talk to anybody who I possibly can who doesn't really know the Babies but likes kind of like more commercial music. You got to listen to that song. You'll remember it. They're like, oh, yeah, I remember that song. Who's that? The Babies? Oh, wow. I didn't know that, right? So.
Yeah, the interesting thing, I'm just looking up the credits there. So this is, Isn't It Time is written by Jack Conrad and Ray Kennedy, and so is this one. So it's like they're dual G. These two go together perfectly, right?
Yeah, they do.
They're the two epic ballads, and they're written by these guys. I kind of looked them up a little bit in preparation. I didn't really find much about them. I didn't look too deeply, but yeah, these are songs that both of them, I always thought that they were massive 60s songs, and the Babies are just kind of redoing them, and I kind of dismissed them for that reason, because I don't like covers. So they're quasi covers in a way anyways. They're songs not written by them, but they aren't made famous by anybody else. They're like big famous Baby songs.
Yeah. So cool list. You got any honorable mentions you want to throw out there?
Well, let's see. So yeah, I would say Broken Heart from Broken Heart I had down. Downtown from On the Edge, so I'm still going back to On the Edge. I had Union Jacks, which is this kind of epic, heavy-ish, mellowish, again, Bruce Springsteen-ish song where he's befuddling, mixing the image of the actual Union Jack with being in a union on that one. Time on My Hands, I went back and did play, the official, unofficial. I picked a Time on My Hands from that one, Step in Line. But yeah, there you go. And like I say, honestly, I could probably finish up with my honorable mentions and pick almost every track from Union Jackson On the Edge before I even move further back.
Yeah, exactly. How about True Love, True Confession?
Yeah, well, that was on my list.
That's right. Yeah.
Wasn't it at the top? I think I had that one almost got knocked into my honorable mentions in place of Union Jacks. I almost put Union Jacks.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's in my honorable mentions. Postcard, as you mentioned, I like that one a lot. That just missed my top 10. Yeah. If You've Got the Time from the Babies album, and also Read My Stars, which I like quite a bit from that first album. So there you have it. Some Babies for you on a Thursday morning. Hope everybody enjoyed this. Like I said, I enjoyed putting this one together because it's always fun when you have like a catalog that's not too big and you like it quite a bit to kind of like, all right, which ones am I going to draw out here? Because I like a lot of stuff. So this is a cool, different band, I think. So thanks again to Martin for joining us today on the show of the Babies. You know how it goes, guys. List your favorite 10 songs from the catalog of the Babies down below. Or maybe your top 5, your top 10, your top 20, whatever. If you don't like the Babies, hey, what can I tell you? Can't please everybody, right? But visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube. Martin and I are coming back. Martin, what are we doing next? Are we doing a deep cut dive on Blue Oyster Cult?
That's going to be a blast. Absolutely. Yeah. I love this new concept of yours, and it's going to be very cool doing BOC.
We mentioned that, and I've already got people like asking, it's like, when is that Blue Oyster Cult show coming? I'm like, it's coming, probably next week. So Martin and I will be back next week. I'll figure out what day we're going to do that, and you will see that and hopefully enjoy it. That's going to be a lot of fun. It's really cool doing the deep cut dive show because it's just kind of, if you know a catalog well, it's like, all right, what's the kind of coolest, deepest stuff we can pull out from this catalog that wasn't on the radio? It wasn't played live all the time, wasn't on their greatest hits albums and popular live albums, all that kind of stuff, because the majority of people only know that stuff anyway. So for Martin Popoff, I am Pete Pardo. Have a good weekend, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow morning with Judas Priest Deep Cut Dive with Jack Toledano. So stay tuned for that. Take care, everybody. Martin, kick us out here.
All right. Very cool, Pete. Looking forward to this BOC. That's going to be fun.
Sounds good. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.